The year was 2387, and Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Frontier, watching the massive space station grow larger through the view screen. Harmony Prime was unlike anything humanity had ever built. The station stretched for miles in every direction, its surface covered with lights that sparkled like stars. Ships from 7 different alien races moved around it like insects around a bright lamp. "Captain, we're receiving docking instructions," said Lieutenant Amy Chen from her communication station. Her voice carried a slight tremor that she tried to hide. Everyone on the bridge felt the same nervous energy. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Council, and the weight of representing their entire species pressed down on them all. "Take us in slowly," Morrison replied to his pilot. He adjusted his dress uniform one more time and looked around at his crew. Commander Lisa Parker stood at the tactical station, her hand resting near the weapons controls out of habit. Dr. Alexei Rodriguez clutched his datapad filled with information about human culture and achievements. Chief Engineer Ben Taylor monitored their experimental faster-than-light drive from his station. They had spent months preparing for this moment. Humanity had only developed faster-than-light travel 5 years ago, and contact with the Galactic Council had come just 2 years later, when one of their patrol ships found human colonies in the outer systems. The aliens had been polite but distant, agreeing to this formal meeting only after months of careful negotiations. The docking process took an hour. Morrison had never seen such advanced technology. The station's docking arms moved with perfect precision, guiding their ship into place without any input from the human crew. Everything was smooth and silent, showing a level of engineering that made human technology look primitive by comparison. "Artificial gravity is stable," reported Parker as they prepared to leave the ship. "Atmosphere reads as safe for humans." Morrison nodded and led his small diplomatic team through the airlock. The corridor beyond was enormous, with ceilings that stretched up 50 feet. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft light. Other beings walked past them, and Morrison tried not to stare. He saw tall, thin creatures that looked like they were made of living metal, floating beings that seemed to be made of colored gas, and others that defied easy description. A guide waited for them, a humanoid figure wearing a translation device. "Welcome to Harmony Prime," it said in perfect English. "The Council is ready to receive you in the Grand Chamber." They walked for what felt like miles through corridors filled with wonders. Morrison saw gardens with plants that moved like animals, walls that displayed images of distant worlds, and technology that seemed to work by thought alone. Everything reinforced the same message. These beings were far more advanced than humanity. The Grand Chamber was a vast circular room with a domed ceiling that showed a perfect view of the stars outside. 7 raised platforms surrounded a smaller platform in the center where the humans were directed to stand. As they took their positions, representatives from each member species of the Galactic Council appeared on their platforms. Morrison had studied images of these beings, but seeing them in person was different. The Vorthak representative was massive, standing nearly 8 feet tall with thick scaly skin and eyes like yellow fire. The Zephyrian looked like a giant insect, its multiple arms moving in complex patterns as it communicated with its hive mind. The Nexari was a collection of living crystals that somehow formed a single consciousness. The other species were equally impressive and alien. "Greetings," Morrison began, reading from his prepared speech. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Ship Frontier. I represent humanity and our colonies, and we come seeking friendship and trade with the Galactic Council." For a moment there was silence. Then something unexpected happened. The aliens began to make sounds that could only be described as laughter. It started with the Vorthak representative and spread to the others. Some laughed in ways that sounded almost human, while others made clicking, buzzing, or ringing sounds that clearly expressed the same emotion. Morrison felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. He looked at his crew and saw the same confusion and hurt in their eyes. "I'm sorry," he said, raising his voice slightly. "Have I said something amusing?" The Vorthak representative, who Morrison knew was called Supreme Commander Zithkar, finally stopped laughing long enough to speak. "Amusing? Oh yes. Little soft skin, very amusing indeed." The alien's voice was deep and rumbling, filled with contempt. You come here speaking of friendship and trade as if you were equals, as if you had anything to offer us. We have much to offer. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, consulting his datapad. Human art, literature, scientific discoveries, unique perspectives on problem solving. Art? The Zephyrian queen mind Zalthara interrupted, her voice like buzzing static. We have created beauty for 10,000 years while your species was still discovering fire. Literature? We have libraries of knowledge spanning galaxies while you still write on paper and electronic screens. The Nexari speaker, crystal voice of many, chimed in, its voice like musical notes. Your scientific discoveries are at the level of our children's toys. You have barely learned to leave your single world, and that only recently. Morrison felt anger building in his chest, but he forced himself to remain calm. We may be new to space travel, but we're eager to learn. We can contribute to the galactic community. Contribute? Zithkar laughed again. Look at yourselves. You have no natural armor, no claws, no defensive capabilities at all. Your biology is so fragile that you die if the air mixture changes slightly. You live for barely 100 of your short years, while we measure our lives in millennia. The alien continued his verbal assault. Your weapons are primitive projectiles and crude explosives. Your ships require massive engines to achieve what our smallest vessels do with ease. Your population barely numbers in the billions, spread across only a handful of worlds. Perhaps they could serve as slave labor, suggested Zalthara, tilting, her insect head as if considering the idea. They seem sturdy enough for simple manual work, and their short lives mean we wouldn't have to deal with them for long. Or as pets, added crystal voice of many. They might be amusing to keep around for entertainment. Their emotions seem quite strong, which could be interesting to observe. Morrison's hands clenched into fists, and he saw Parker step closer to his side, ready to defend him if necessary. The insults continued for several more minutes, with each alien species adding their own observations about human weakness and inferiority. Finally, Zithkar raised a clawed hand for silence. Enough amusement, he said. Let us be clear about your situation, little humans. The galaxy is not a place for weak species to wander freely. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Council has maintained order and peace through strength and wisdom. The alien leaned forward on his platform, his yellow eyes glowing brighter. You have two choices. Submit to our protection as a client species. You will pay tribute, accept limits on your expansion and military development, and provide whatever services we require. In return, we will protect you from the dangers of the galaxy. And if we refuse? Morrison asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Then you will face correction, Zithkar replied simply. Our enforcement fleet will visit your worlds and teach you the proper order of things. The choice is yours, but choose wisely. You have one standard galactic year to decide. The platforms began to dim as the alien representatives prepared to leave. Morrison and his crew stood in the center of the chamber, feeling smaller than they had ever felt before. The most important moment in human history had become their greatest humiliation. As they walked back to their ship, none of the humans spoke. The silence stretched until they were safely aboard the frontier and heading back toward Earth. Only then did Morrison trust himself to speak. Get me a secure channel to Earth Command, he told Amy Chen. Priority 1. Yes, sir, she replied, her voice tight with controlled anger. Morrison looked out at the stars and felt something cold settle in his stomach. Humanity had come seeking friendship and found only contempt. They had offered cooperation and been given ultimatums. The aliens saw them as weak, primitive, and disposable. Perhaps it was time to show them exactly how wrong they were. The emergency session of the United Earth government lasted 3 days. President Karen Williams sat at the head of the massive table in the underground bunker beneath New Geneva, listening to arguments that grew more heated by the hour. Representatives from every human colony had gathered either in person or through secure video links, and the room buzzed with tension. We have to be realistic, said Counselor Peters from the Mars colonies. They have ships that can destroy our entire fleet without breaking a sweat. They've been traveling between stars for thousands of years while we've barely been doing it for 5. Fighting them would be suicide. So we should just roll over and become their slaves? Snapped General Maria Santos from the Luna Defense Force. Hand over our children to work in their mines? Give up everything our species has worked for? President Williams raised her hand for quiet. The room slowly settled, though she could still feel the anger radiating from many of the representatives. Admiral Hayes, she said, turning to the grizzled man sitting to her right. What's your assessment? Admiral Rick Hayes stood slowly. At 65, he had commanded Earth's defense forces for over 20 years, and his weathered face showed the weight of the decision before them. Madam President, I've been studying the recordings from Captain Morrison's mission. I've analyzed every detail of their ships, their behavior, their tactics. He activated a holographic display that showed images from the diplomatic meeting. The aliens made one critical mistake. They were so busy laughing at us that they revealed everything about how they think. Dr. Angela Foster, Earth's leading military strategist, leaned forward. Explain that, Admiral. Look at their formation when they arrived at Harmony Prime, Hayes said, pointing to the display. Perfect geometric patterns, no variation, no adaptability. They've been using the same tactics for so long that they've become predictable. He switched to another image. Notice how they stand on their platforms? Each species stays in their designated area. No mixing, no collaboration. They may call themselves a council, but they don't really work together. The room was quiet now. Everyone focused on Hayes' analysis. They have better technology, yes, but technology isn't everything. They've become soft, comfortable. They haven't had to fight a real war in centuries because everyone surrenders before it starts. Are you suggesting we can actually win? President Williams asked. I'm suggesting we might not lose as badly as they think, Hayes replied. And sometimes that's enough. Dr. Foster stood and activated her own presentation. I've been analyzing human advantages that the aliens completely overlooked. The display showed comparative charts and data. They focused on our physical weaknesses and ignored our strengths. She clicked to the first chart. Adaptability. Humans can survive in environments that would kill most of these alien species. We've colonized worlds with different gravity, atmosphere, and climate. The Vorthak needs specific temperature ranges. The Zephyrians can't function in low humidity. The Nexari require certain mineral compositions in the air. The next slide showed historical data. Innovation under pressure. Throughout human history, our greatest technological leaps have come during times of crisis. We don't just adapt to new situations. We create new solutions. The aliens have had the same technology for millennia. They improve slowly, carefully. We innovate wildly when we need to. What about their superior numbers? Asked Counselor Chen from the Asian Federation. Numbers matter less in space combat than people think, said General Steve Carter, who had been quiet until now. Their fleets are spread across the entire galaxy, maintaining order on thousands of worlds. They can't bring everything to bear against us at once without leaving their empire undefended. President Williams looked around the room. So you're all recommending we refuse their ultimatum? I'm recommending we prepare for war, Hayes said firmly. Whether we fight or surrender, we need to be ready. And if we're going to fight, we need to start now. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Humanity would not submit to alien rule. Within weeks, the entire human civilization transformed. Factories that had been producing civilian goods switched to military production. Dr. Helen Brooks led teams of scientists in reverse engineering every piece of alien technology they had encountered during the diplomatic mission. Even the smallest details from Captain Morrison's recordings were analyzed and studied. Commander Tony Green worked with military academies across all human worlds to develop new tactical doctrines. Forget everything you know about space combat, he told his officers. The aliens expect us to fight like they do, in neat formations with predictable patterns. We're not going to do that. The shipyards above Luna, Mars, and Earth worked around the clock. New vessels rolled out every day, each one incorporating lessons learned from alien designs, but built with uniquely human innovations. The UES Retribution was the first of the new generation, followed quickly by the UES Defiance and UES Vengeance. Captain Morrison found himself promoted to Commodore and placed in charge of training new ship commanders. Remember, he told each graduating class, they think we're weak because we're different. They think our emotions make us unstable. Let them keep thinking that right up until we prove them wrong. The first test came sooner than expected. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Martinez commanded Mining Station 7 in the Centauri system when 3 Vorthak patrol ships arrived unannounced. The aliens broadcast a simple message: surrender this facility and prepare for relocation. This is Martinez, she replied over the open channel. This is human territory, you need to leave. The alien response was immediate. You will comply or face destruction. Martinez looked at her small crew of miners and security personnel. They had 2 small patrol ships and the mining station's basic defensive systems against 3 alien warships. By every logical measure, they should surrender immediately. All personnel to battle stations, Martinez ordered instead. The Vorthak ships moved into attack formation, approaching the mining station in a perfect triangle pattern. Martinez had studied their tactics and knew they would try to disable the station's defenses first, then demand surrender again. They wanted prisoners more than corpses. Wait for it, she told her gunners as the alien ships closed in. The asteroids around the mining station provided cover, but the aliens seemed to ignore them completely. They were focused on the station itself, treating the space rocks as irrelevant. When the aliens opened fire, Martinez was ready. Now, she shouted. The 2 human patrol ships burst from behind separate asteroids, firing at maximum power. Though my aliens had expected them to defend the station directly, not use hit-and-run tactics. The first Vorthak ship took severe damage before it could react. Break and scatter, Martinez ordered. The human ships separated, using the asteroid field as cover while continuing their attack. The aliens tried to maintain formation, but the chaotic environment made their coordinated tactics useless. The battle lasted only 20 minutes. 1 Vorthak ship was completely disabled, another badly damaged. The 3rd ship finally adapted and began chasing the human vessels individually, but by then Martinez had what she wanted. All ships execute Retreat Plan Alpha, she commanded. The human forces disappeared into the asteroid field, leaving the aliens confused and angry. They had won the engagement, but barely, and against opponents they had expected to crush easily. The news of the skirmish spread quickly through both human and alien channels. For the first time in galactic history, a newly contacted species had fought back against a council patrol and survived. In the halls of Harmony Prime, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Supreme Commander Zithkar was furious. This insult cannot be tolerated, he declared. The humans must be crushed immediately. But other council members were less certain. The Aquarian representative expressed concern about the precedent. If other species see that resistance is possible— It was a minor skirmish, Zithkar interrupted. A lucky accident. When our enforcement fleet arrives at their homeworld, they will remember their place. On Earth, President Williams received Martinez's battle report with mixed feelings. The victory was encouraging, but it also meant war was now inevitable. The aliens would not ignore this challenge to their authority. Admiral Hayes was already preparing for the next phase. They'll send their enforcement fleet, he told the gathered commanders. Everything we've worked for comes down to the next battle. If we can hold them off, prove that humans can fight, then maybe other species will start to question council rule. And if we lose? Asked General Carter. Hayes looked out the window at the shipyards where humanity's new fleet was taking shape. Then at least we'll go down fighting. In space, Captain Morrison aboard his new flagship watched the alien enforcement fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Hundreds of ships, more firepower than humanity had ever seen, all coming to teach them a lesson about the proper order of the galaxy. All ships, Morrison broadcast to the human fleet. This is it. Everything we are, everything we've built, everything we believe in comes down to this moment. Show them what happens when you underestimate the human spirit. The war for humanity's future was about to begin. War leader Korthvik stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the small blue planet grow larger on his screens. Behind him stretched the greatest military force ever assembled by the Galactic Council. 300 ships from 4 different species, armed with weapons that could crack planets and shields that had never been breached. Communications, he barked to his crew. Open a channel to the human homeworld. The response came quickly, though the alien was surprised by the calm voice that answered. This is Admiral Rick Hayes of the Earth Defense Force. State your business. Korthvik laughed, a sound like grinding metal. I am War Leader Korthvik of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. You will surrender immediately and prepare for pacification. Your recent acts of aggression have sealed your fate. The only aggression I see is 300 warships pointing weapons at my planet, Hayes replied. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing, or we will consider this an act of war. 30 seconds? Korthvik could hardly believe what he was hearing. You face the combined might of 4 civilizations, little human. Your entire species could not defeat a single one of our ships. 20 seconds, Hayes said calmly. Korthvik cut the communication and turned to his tactical officer. Begin the SO. Attack. Target their orbital defenses first, then their cities. Leave enough alive to serve as an example to other primitive species. The enforcement fleet moved into attack formation, their ships arranging themselves in the traditional battle pattern that had conquered 1,000 worlds. But as they closed in on Earth, something unexpected happened. The human fleet appeared from behind the moon, moving in a formation that made no sense to alien eyes. Instead of neat lines or defensive clusters, the human ships scattered in all directions like startled insects. Some headed directly for the alien fleet, others curved away at sharp angles, and still others seemed to be fleeing entirely. What are they doing? Korthvik demanded. This is not how space battles are fought. His tactical officer studied the displays with confusion. I cannot determine their strategy, War Leader. They appear to be chaotic. Admiral Hayes watched the alien formation from the bridge of his flagship, the UES Constitution. Just like we practiced, he said to his crew. They expect us to line up and trade shots like gentlemen. Instead, we give them chaos. The first human ships to reach the alien fleet were small, fast vessels that darted between the larger alien ships like wasps attacking a bear. The aliens tried to target them, but their weapons were designed for long-range combat against predictable opponents. The human ships moved too fast and too randomly. Captain Rachel Stone commanded one of these fast attack ships, the UES Wolverine. She led her squadron through the alien formation, firing at everything they could reach before spinning away to safety. Remember, she told her pilots over the radio, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to make them confused and angry. It worked. The alien ships began breaking formation to chase individual human vessels, exactly what Hayes had hoped for. Once the aliens abandoned their coordinated attack, they became vulnerable to human tactics. Now, Hayes ordered, execute hammer and anvil. The human ships that had seemed to be fleeing suddenly turned around and attacked the alien fleet from behind, while the ships that had scattered earlier converged on the flanks. The aliens found themselves surrounded by enemies attacking from every direction at once. Korthvik watched his perfect formation dissolve into chaos and felt something he had not experienced in centuries: doubt. How are they doing this? He demanded. They should be dead by now. Commander Lisa Parker had her own ship now, the UES Shadowhawk, and she specialized in the kind of fighting that drove aliens crazy. Her ship would appear from nowhere, strike fast and hard, then vanish before the enemy could respond. She used the Earth's moon as cover, popping out to attack before disappearing again. Target their command ship, she told her gunner as they emerged from behind a chunk of space debris. 3 quick shots, then we run. The shots hit the Eternal Dominions, shields causing no real damage but getting Korthvik's attention. When he tried to respond, Parker was already gone, hidden in the shadow of a destroyed alien escort. The battle raged for hours. The aliens had superior firepower and stronger shields, but they could not adapt to human tactics. Every time they tried to form up for a coordinated attack, the humans would strike from an unexpected direction and scatter their formation. Dr. Alex Rodriguez monitored the battle from Earth's command center, analyzing alien communications. What he heard gave him hope. "Admiral," he reported to Hayes, "I'm picking up arguments on their command channels. Some of their ships are calling for retreat. Others are demanding reinforcements." "They're not used to losing," Hayes replied, dodging weapons fire from a Zephyrian cruiser. "For 10,000 years, they've won every battle by showing up and demanding surrender. They don't know how to handle a real fight." The turning point came when Captain Frank Miller led a group of modified human freighters in a maneuver that should have been impossible. The aliens expected military ships to fight and civilian ships to run. They did not expect cargo vessels loaded with explosives to ram their formation at full speed. "For Earth!" Miller shouted as his ship struck an alien cruiser. The explosion took out 3 enemy vessels and opened a gap in their lines that human fighters poured through. Korthvik realized he was losing a battle that should have been easy. Half his fleet was damaged or destroyed, and the humans showed no signs of giving up. Worse, he was receiving messages from the Council that other species were watching this battle very carefully. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the Aquarian Federation is asking why we need so many ships to defeat a primitive species." "Tell them to mind their own business," Korthvik snarled, but he knew the damage was done. If the humans could hold out much longer, it would show the entire galaxy that the Council was not invincible. The battle finally ended when human reinforcements arrived from the outer colonies. Ships from Mars, Luna, and the asteroid mining stations had been racing toward Earth since the fighting began. When they appeared on the edge of the battle, attacking the alien fleet from yet another unexpected direction, it was too much. "All ships, retreat to Rally Point 7, Korthvik ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. The surviving alien vessels broke off their attack and fled into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind wreckage and their reputation. Admiral Hayes stood on his bridge, looking out at the debris field that had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. His own ships were badly damaged and he had lost good people, but they had done the impossible. Humanity had faced the Council's best and survived. "Get me a channel to all human colonies," he ordered. "It's time to let everyone know what we accomplished here." Across the galaxy, the news spread faster than the aliens could control it. A newly contacted species had defeated a Council enforcement fleet. The invincible Galactic Council had been beaten by primitives who still used projectile weapons. On the Council world of Nexus Prime, emergency sessions were called. Some species demanded escalation, others called for negotiation. The Aquarian Federation quietly began withdrawing their ships from Council operations, claiming they needed to defend their own territory. The Mineral Lords announced they were suspending their military contributions due to resource shortages. The Luminar Assembly suggested that perhaps the humans deserved another chance at diplomacy. Only the Vorthak, Zephyrians, and Nexari wanted to continue the war. But without the support of the other species, their position was weakened. Captain Morrison, now commanding his own battle group, led raids against alien supply lines. His ships would appear where the aliens least expected them, strike fast and disappear before reinforcements could arrive. Each successful raid made the aliens look weaker and encouraged other oppressed species to question Council rule. The war, that was supposed to last days, had stretched into months, and the galaxy was beginning to change. Species that had submitted to Council rule for thousands of years were starting to whisper about freedom. The humans had shown that resistance was possible. In her private chambers, Zephyrian Queen Mind Zalthara reviewed intelligence reports about human capabilities. Everything they had believed about the soft-skinned primitives was wrong. These creatures adapted faster than any species in galactic history. They innovated under pressure. They refused to surrender even when facing impossible odds. Perhaps, she thought to herself, we underestimated them. The thought would have consequences that neither she nor the rest of the Council could imagine. The war had been going on for 8 months when everything changed. Colonel Diana Ross stood on the smoking ruins of what had once been a Vorthak military base on the planet Corton Prime. Her Marines had done the impossible, capturing an alien stronghold that was supposed to be unbreachable. "Report," she said into her radio as she watched her soldiers secure the area. "Perimeter is clear, Colonel," came the reply from Sergeant Tom Bailey. "The locals are coming out of hiding. They want to talk." Ross looked around at the alien landscape. Corton Prime was a harsh world with acid rain and temperatures that would kill most alien species, but humans could survive here with basic equipment. The Vorthak had built their base here because they thought no one would be crazy enough to attack it. They were wrong. A group of local aliens approached cautiously. They looked like tall, thin lizards with blue scales and large eyes. Their leader spoke through a translation device in broken but understandable words. You defeated the Vorthak?" the alien asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "We did," Ross replied. "This planet is free now." The alien leader fell to his knees, and others behind him did the same. "For 300 years they have ruled us, taken our children for slaves, stolen our resources. We thought no one could stop them." Ross helped the alien to his feet. "The galaxy is changing. The Council's time is ending." Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Captain Rachel Stone led her, raiding fleet through the Nexari trade routes. Her ships had become legends among both humans and aliens. The UES Wolverine and its escort vessels could appear anywhere in the galaxy, strike without warning, and vanish before help arrived. "Captain," her navigator reported, "we're detecting a large convoy ahead. 12 cargo ships with heavy escort." Stone studied the sensor readings. The convoy was carrying supplies to Council military bases, exactly the kind of target they had been hunting. But something was different about this one. "Those escort ships," she said, pointing at the display. "They're not all Council species. I'm seeing Aquarian Federation markings mixed in with Vorthak vessels." Her tactical officer looked confused. "Why would the Aquarians be protecting Council convoys?" "They're not," Stone realized. "They're protecting their own ships in the convoy. The Alliance is breaking down." She opened a channel to the convoy. "Aquarian vessels, this is Captain Stone of the human fleet. We have no quarrel with you. Separate from the Vorthak ships, and you will not be harmed." The response came quickly. "Human vessel, this is Commander Reefwalker of the Aquarian Federation. We will comply." Stone watched in amazement as the Aquarian ships broke formation and moved away from the convoy. For the first time in galactic history, a Council member species had refused to fight humans. The war was becoming something bigger than anyone had expected. On Earth, President Karen Williams received reports from across the galaxy. The news was better than she had dared hope. 3 more species had withdrawn from the Council alliance. The Mineral Lords had stopped providing raw materials for Council ships. The Luminar Assembly had declared neutrality. "Madam President," Dr. Rodriguez said as he entered her office with a stack of intelligence reports, "we're getting messages from resistance groups on over 50 worlds. Species that have been under Council rule for centuries are starting to rebel." Williams studied the reports. Each one told the same story. Humans had shown that the Council could be defeated, and that had given hope to oppressed peoples everywhere. The galaxy was in chaos, but it was the kind of chaos that led to freedom. "What about the remaining Council forces?" she asked. "Still dangerous," Admiral Hayes reported from his position near Jupiter. "The Vorthak, Zephyrians and Nexari have combined their fleets. They're calling it the Final Armada. Intelligence suggests they're planning one last attack on Earth." "How many ships?" 800. Everything they have left." Williams felt a chill. Humanity had won battles through clever tactics and alien overconfidence, but 800 ships was still an overwhelming force. "Can we stop them?" Hayes was quiet for a moment. "We'll find out." War leader Korthvik stood in the command center of his new flagship, the Vengeance of Stars. Around him, the Final Armada stretched as far as sensors could reach. Every remaining Council ship had been gathered for this attack. There would be no retreat, no second chances. "Today, we end this embarrassment," he announced to his assembled commanders. "The humans have caused enough chaos. Other species think they can rebel because primitives got lucky in a few battles. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who challenge the natural order." The Zephyrian Queen mind. Zelthara's voice buzzed through the communication system. The hive agrees. These soft skins must be crushed completely, no survivors. Crystal voice of many of the Nexari added its musical tones. Let this be the final lesson. Order must be restored. But as the final armada approached Earth, they found something unexpected. The human fleet was not hiding behind their planet's defenses. Instead, they had formed up in open space as if they planned to meet the alien force head-on. Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the UES Enterprise. Around him, the entire human fleet waited. Ships from every colony, every mining station, every outpost humanity had ever built. It was not nearly as large as the alien armada, but it was everything they had. Admiral, Captain Morrison reported from his position at the fleet center. All ships are ready. Hayes opened a channel to the alien fleet. War Leader Korthvik, this is Admiral Hayes. You have one last chance to withdraw, leave our space, and return to your own worlds. This war has gone on long enough. Korthvik's laughter echoed across space. Still making demands, little human? You face the combined might of 3 civilizations. Your clever tricks will not save you this time. No tricks, Hayes replied. Just humans fighting for their freedom. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The aliens attacked in their traditional formation, expecting to overwhelm the human fleet through sheer numbers and firepower. But humanity had spent months learning from every previous engagement. Captain Frank Miller led a squadron of ships, specially designed for one purpose: getting close to enemy vessels. His pilots flew through walls of alien fire, using every trick they had learned about alien weapon patterns and targeting systems. Captain Stone brought her raiders out of the asteroid belt, striking the alien rearguard just as the main battle began. Her ships had been hidden among the space rocks for days, waiting for this moment. Colonel Ross, now commanding an assault carrier, launched boarding parties against alien ships. Human Marines in powered armor fought their way through alien corridors, using their adaptability to survive in environments that would kill most other species. The turning point came when Captain Morrison led a desperate charge against Korthvik's flagship. The UES Enterprise and its escort ships punched through, the alien formation heading straight for the vengeance of stars. All weapons fire at will, Morrison ordered as they closed in on the massive alien ship. The Enterprise was smaller and less powerful than the Vorthak flagship, but it was faster and more maneuverable. Morrison's ship danced around the alien vessel, avoiding its heavy weapons while striking at weak points. Other human ships joined the attack, swarming the flagship like angry bees. Korthvik watched his ship's defenses failing and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. How are they doing this? He demanded. We have superior technology, superior numbers. We should be winning. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered. They adapt to our tactics faster than we can change them. They use weaknesses we did not know we had. The battle ended when the vengeance of stars finally succumbed to the human assault. As the flagship exploded, the rest of the alien fleet began to retreat. The final armada had been broken. In the aftermath, messages poured in from across the galaxy. The Aquarian Federation formally requested peace negotiations. The mineral lords asked to join a new galactic alliance. Dozens of oppressed species declared their independence from council rule. The Galactic Council, which had ruled for 10,000 years, was finished. 5 years later, Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Unity, flagship of the new Galactic Federation of Free Worlds. Representatives from over 100 species worked together in the ship's corridors, building a future based on cooperation rather than domination. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a message from the Vorthak home system. They're requesting assistance with a refugee crisis. Morrison smiled. The same species that had once called humans soft-skinned weaklings now came to them for help. Send a relief fleet, he ordered, and make sure they know we're coming as friends, not conquerors. President Williams had been right when she said the galaxy was changing. The aliens who had mocked humanity's weakness had learned that true strength came not from superior technology or ancient traditions, but from the willingness to stand up for what was right, no matter the odds. The species that had been dismissed as primitive pets had become the leaders of a new galactic civilization, one built on the radical idea that all intelligent life deserved freedom and respect. In the end, the aliens' greatest mistake had not been underestimating human technology or tactics. Their mistake had been underestimating the human spirit, and that was a lesson the galaxy would never forget.